I swear to you, I never meant to open that package, but the moment I did, my whole world fell apart. Everything I believed about my son, my family, my life, was a lie wrapped inside that little brown box. Everything seemed so normal that morning, but after that package arrived, nothing was ever normal again. It was the kind of morning you thank God for giving you another sunrise. The birds outside my kitchen window were already arguing over crumbs, and the coffee smelled just right. My little house sat at the edge of Maple Creek, Tennessee, quiet, peaceful, and far enough from the city that you could still hear your own thoughts. I've lived here nearly 50 years. Since my husband Tom passed, this old house has been my whole world. The creaking floorboards, the ticking clock, they remind me that I'm still here. Sometimes I joke with myself, Evelyn, if those walls ever start talking, make sure they say nice things. But that morning, something different happened. At 9 a.m., the mail truck stopped in front of my gate. I wasn't expecting anything. Bills come once a month, and nobody sends letters anymore. But there it was, a small brown package on my porch, tied with cheap twine. The label said, "To Mom from Jody." Jody, my daughter-in-law. We've never exactly gotten along. She's modern, sharp heels, sharper tongue. Always thought small-town life was beneath her. My son Carl, God bless him, tries to keep peace between us. So when I saw her name on that box, I felt something twist inside me. What's she sending me now? I whispered. Still, I smiled. Maybe it was a peace offering. Maybe she finally wanted to mend things. I brought the box to the kitchen table, set it next to my mug, and stared at it for a while. It was light, almost too light. No return address. Just Jody Denver's scrawled in that perfect handwriting of hers. I was about to open it when the phone rang. "Hey, Mom!" Carl's cheerful voice came through. "Did Jody's package reach you yet?" "Yes, honey. Just got it." "What's it for?" "Oh, it's supposed to be your surprise. Don't open it yet, okay?" "A surprise?" "Oh, Carl, you know I don't like surprises." "Just wait till tonight, Mom. Promise me." "All right. I promise." But promises are funny things. When your gut tells you something's off, even a promise feels heavy. I swear to you, I never meant to open that package, but the moment I did, my whole world fell apart. Everything I believed about my son, my family, my life, was a lie wrapped inside that little brown box. Everything seemed so normal that morning, but after that package arrived, nothing was ever normal again. It was the kind of morning you thank God for giving you another sunrise. The birds outside my kitchen window were already arguing over crumbs, and the coffee smelled just right. My little house sat at the edge of Maple Creek, Tennessee, quiet, peaceful, and far enough from the city that you could still hear your own thoughts. I've lived here nearly 50 years. Since my husband Tom passed, this old house has been my whole world. The creaking floorboards, the ticking clock, they remind me that I'm still here. Sometimes I joke with myself, Evelyn, if those walls ever start talking, make sure they say nice things. But that morning, something different happened.
The moment I lifted the lid, a wave of something cold passed through me. Inside, neatly packed, were 2 sandwiches, an apple slice, and a small folded napkin. But the sandwiches weren't homemade. They were from Patty's Diner, the same place Carl and Jody always went on Fridays, and that napkin, it had lipstick marks, red ones, a shade Jody never wore. I looked closer and froze. There, in looping handwriting, were the words, "Lunch tastes better when it's made with love." M. Who was M? I felt the room spin, my chest tightened. Could it be another woman? A mother's doubt. I told myself I must be mistaken. Maybe it was a joke, maybe Jody found it and wanted to show me. But then I remembered her tone on the phone last month. The sarcasm in her voice when she said, "Carl's always working late these days, isn't he?" Maybe this wasn't a gift, maybe it was a message. A wife exposing her husband's secret through his mother. My fingers trembled as I dialed Carl's number. "Hey, Mom." He answered. "You opened it already, didn't you?" I had to. "Carl, what's this lunchbox supposed to mean?" "Mom, please, don't overthink it. There's a note inside." From M. Silence. "Carl?" He sighed. "Mom, I'll explain later." "Explain what, honey?" "Please don't tell Jody I called." "Okay. I just need some time." And then the line went dead. I sat there, phone in one hand, lunchbox in the other. as my heart cracked a little more with every second of silence. The storm begins outside. Thunder rolled across Maple Creek. The wind rattled the window panes. And in that storm, I realized this wasn't just a lunchbox. It was the first piece of proof in a web I didn't know existed. My son was hiding something Jody knew, and his mother, had just been made the middle of their war. I didn't know it then, but that little box was about to change everything. And before it was over, someone would pay for what they'd done. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that note, lunch tastes better when it's made with love. I kept hearing that voice in my head, whispering the letter M like it was carved into my heart. By morning, the sky was heavy and gray. The rain hadn't stopped. It felt like the whole town was holding its breath. I told myself, Evelyn, don't jump to conclusions. You've raised a good man. Carl isn't capable of betrayal. But doubt is a quiet poison. Once it starts spreading, it doesn't stop. The drive to town. At noon I grabbed my coat and keys. I couldn't sit still any longer. If that lunchbox came from Patty's diner, I needed to see for myself. Maple Creek is a small town. One of those places where the diner waitress knows your name and your story. Patty's diner sits right by the gas station, neon sign flickering even in daylight. When I walked in, the little bell over the door jingled. And there she was, Patty herself, wiping down the counter. Evelyn, haven't seen you in a while, she said with that big friendly smile. I smiled back, trying to keep my voice steady. Patty, do you still make those roast beef sandwiches? Of course, sweetheart. Same recipe since '82. I nodded. You, still got that new waitress? The young one? Patty looked curious. You mean Mara? Yeah, she's been working double shifts lately. Sweet girl. Carl's always leaving her big tips. My stomach dropped. Mara,
Patty must have noticed the color drain from my face because she leaned closer. You okay, honey? I forced a smile. Just tired, that's all. But inside, I was breaking. Carl, my only son, the boy who used to bring me wildflowers after school. He'd always been the one thing in my life that made sense. And now I stood there, realizing he might be living a lie, betraying the woman he married, the family he built. Patty poured me coffee without asking. Sit down, Evelyn. You look pale. I sat. The cup trembled in my hand. Does Mara work today? I asked. Patty nodded toward the back. She's on break. You want to say hi? I shook my head. No. I don't think so. I didn't need to see her. I already knew. A mother's conflict. On the drive home, the rain turned into a downpour. The wipers squeaked, but I barely saw the road. Half of me was angry. The other half wanted to protect Carl even from his own mistakes. I kept thinking of Jody. She must have found that lunchbox and sent it to me on purpose. Not out of kindness, but revenge. Maybe she wanted me to take her side. Maybe she wanted me to hate my son. But a mother doesn't stop loving her child even when he breaks her heart. That evening, I heard a car pull into my driveway. Through the rain-streaked window, I saw Carl step out, jacket over his head, rushing toward the porch. I opened the door before he could knock. He looked nervous, eyes red, like he hadn't slept either. Mom, he said quietly. Can we talk? I nodded and stepped aside. He stood in the middle of the living room, dripping water on the rug, staring at the floor. I didn't mean for you to find out like this, he said. So it's true, I whispered. He swallowed hard. Yeah, it's true. My knees went weak, and I sat down slowly. Mom, please, you have to understand. Things with Jody, they haven't been right for a long time. She doesn't even talk to me anymore. Mara, she just listens. That's all. I never wanted it to go this far. I looked up at him. Carl, you have 3 children. A home, a wife who trusted you. He rubbed his face, tears mixing with rain. I know, and I hate myself for it. He sat beside me. For a moment, he was just my little boy again, the one who used to cry when he broke a toy. Mom, he said softly, I don't know what to do. If I tell Jody, she'll destroy me. She already sent you that package, didn't she? I nodded. She's smarter than I thought, he muttered. She wants to ruin me before I can fix it. I looked at him for a long time. Then fix it, Carl. Be honest. Whatever happens next, you can't live 2 lives. Not in front of your kids. He looked like he wanted to believe me, but fear was stronger. I just need time, he said, standing up. Please don't tell anyone yet. Before I could answer, he was gone. The breaking point. That night I sat alone by the window, the lunchbox still on the table. Rain whispered against the glass, and the clock ticked slow. I thought about my husband Tom, how he used to say, "Truth always finds its way home, Evie, sooner or later." I closed my eyes and prayed for Carl, for strength, for forgiveness, for a miracle. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Because when Jody started something, she never stopped halfway. And whatever she had planned next, it would be far worse than a lunchbox. 2 days passed after Carl's visit, and not a word from him. No calls, no messages, just silence. And in that silence, I began to understand something about guilt. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it hides behind quiet. I tried to distract myself watering my plants, knitting on the porch, but my thoughts always circled back to him. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped, hoping it was Carl. It never was. On the third morning, I woke up to the sound of tires crunching gravel. When I looked outside, Jody's car was in my driveway. The confrontation. She walked up the steps holding an umbrella, her expression sharp as glass. I opened the door before she could knock. "Morning, Evelyn," she said, voice too calm to be kind. "Jody," I said softly, "I was wondering when you'd come." She smirked. "Oh, I'm sure you were. Did you like the little surprise I sent you?" My heart sank. "Why would you do that?" "Because someone needed to," she snapped. "Carl won't listen to me, but he still listens to you. I thought maybe you'd talk some sense into your son before he ruins more lives." "Jody," I said carefully, "he told me everything." Her eyes flashed. "Oh, he did? Did he? Did he also tell you about the money? About the new house he's buying with her?" I blinked. "Money?" She stepped closer. "He's been taking money out of the joint account for months. I tracked every transaction. I have proof." I stood there, gripping the doorframe to steady myself. This wasn't just an affair, it was betrayal on every level. Jody reached into her purse and pulled out a folded paper. Receipts, statements, transfers, all in Carl's name. She laid them out on my kitchen table, one by one, her hands shaking with anger. "I trusted him," she whispered. "I gave him everything. My loyalty, my patience, my life." Her voice broke, and for the first time since she arrived, she didn't look angry, she looked hurt. I poured her coffee without a word. She sat down slowly. "You know, Evelyn, I never wanted to be the villain in your family. I tried. I cooked for him, cared for your grandkids, kept the house running. But Carl, he changed after that promotion. He started dressing different, acting different. Then one night, I smelled her perfume on his shirt." She pressed her lips together. "I knew then, but I needed proof." "And the lunchbox?" I asked quietly. Her eyes lifted to mine. "That was the proof. I found it in his car, hidden under the seat." I couldn't bear to confront him directly. I wanted him to feel what I felt, that sting of shame. I sighed, feeling the weight of generations of love and mistakes pressing on my shoulders. "Jody," I said gently, "what do you plan to do now?" Her answer came without hesitation. "Make him pay." That night, I couldn't sleep again. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Carl, the boy who used to fix my porch steps, now walking into a trap set by his own wife. Jody wasn't bluffing. She was clever, patient, and angry enough to burn the whole house down. By morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit back and watch my family destroy itself. I drove to Carl's house. The kids were at school. The air smelled like rain again, the kind that soaks into your bones. Carl opened the door, surprised. "Mom, everything okay?" "No, Carl," I said, stepping inside. "Nothing is okay." He looked tired, older than his years. Stacks of unopened mails sat by the counter. The air in the house felt heavy, stale. "Your wife came to see me," I said. "She showed me the statements." He froze. "She what?" "She knows everything." He swore under his breath and slammed his hand on the counter. "Of course she does. I should have known she'd go to you." "Carl, listen to me," I said, trying to calm him. "You can still fix this." He looked at me, desperate. "Mom, I can't. She's threatening to take the kids, the house, everything. If I confess, I lose it all." "And if you don't?" I said softly. He looked away. "Then I lose myself." That afternoon, Carl left to handle things, as he put it. I stayed in the empty house, praying silently that he'd choose honesty over pride. But when the sun went down and the phone finally rang, it wasn't Carl. It was Jody. Her voice was trembling. "Evelyn, you need to come. Now." "What happened?" I asked, heart pounding. "It's Carl. He's here." He confessed. But then, she went silent for a moment, then whispered, "He's gone." "Gone? What do you mean gone?" She started crying. "He left, took his things, said he couldn't face anyone anymore. I think he's planning something stupid." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Stay where you are," I said. "I'll find him." I drove through the night, calling his phone again and again, straight to voicemail. I checked the diner. Closed. His office. Locked. Finally, I ended up at the old fishing dock, the place he used to take his father before he passed. And there he was, sitting at the edge of the dock, staring into the black water. I parked and walked toward him slowly. "Carl," I said softly, "please come home." He didn't turn around. "You should have just let me disappear, Mom." "I couldn't do that," I said. "Not after losing your father. Not after everything we've survived." He was crying quiet, broken sobs. "I hurt everyone. I ruined everything." I put my hand on his shoulder. "Then start over. You're still alive. You still have a chance to do the right thing." He turned to me, eyes red and swollen. "And what's that? Beg for forgiveness?" "No," I whispered. "Earn it." The next morning, Carl turned himself in. He confessed to the affair, to the money, to everything. It made headlines in the local paper. "Businessman admits embezzlement, pleads guilty." Jody filed for divorce within the week. The house was sold. The kids stayed with her. And my son, my only son, was sentenced to 2 years in prison. When I visited him the first time, he looked smaller somehow, quieter, but cleaner, like a man stripped of lies. "Mom," he said softly through the glass, "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "You don't have to," I told him. "Just learn from the pain you caused. That's all the justice you can give." He nodded, tears falling onto his hands. I left that day feeling both broken and proud. Broken, because I had lost a son I thought I knew. Proud, because I had raised a man who finally faced the truth, the shadow of revenge. But the story didn't end there. Because Jody, she didn't stop. She wasn't satisfied with justice. She wanted revenge. And when she started targeting everything Carl had left, his job, his reputation, his peace, I knew the fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. When the truth came out, it was like watching a storm clear after a long night. The judge ruled a restraining order. Her company found out about her online harassment. She lost her job. Her reputation, the thing she cared about most, cracked like glass. Carl called me from prison a week later. "Mom," he said quietly, "I heard what you did." I said nothing. "I didn't ask you to protect me," he continued. "But thank you. No one's ever fought for me like that." "I didn't do it for you," I said softly. "I did it for the man you could still become." He went silent, then whispered, "I'll make it right when I get out. I promise." 2 years later, he did. When Carl walked out of that prison gate, I barely recognized him. He was thinner, quieter, humbler, but his eyes, they had something new in them. Clarity. He hugged me, and for the first time in years, I felt my heart rest. "I found a job," he said. "Just simple construction work. I want to start small, start honest." I smiled. That's the only way that matters. As we drove home, the sun broke through the clouds, warm and gold, lighting up the frozen fields. For a moment, everything felt new again. A month after Carl's release, Jody showed up at my door. She looked different, tired, thinner, defeated. "I came to say I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "For what?" I asked gently. "For everything. I thought if I ruined him, I'd stop hurting, but I only made it worse." I nodded slowly. "Pain doesn't disappear when you pass it on, Jody. It just finds a new home." She looked down, tears welling in her eyes. "Do you think he'll ever forgive me?" I sighed. "Forgiveness isn't something you wait for. It's something you start living like you deserve." She nodded and walked away quietly. That was the last time I ever saw her. Now, sometimes, when I sit on the porch and watch the sunset melt into the fields, I think about all that's been lost and all that's been learned. Carl visits every Sunday. He brings the kids now. They run through the yard laughing, like nothing ever broke in this family. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not pretending the pain never happened, but finding something worth loving after it does. As for me, I don't believe in revenge anymore. But I do believe in justice. And justice, my dear, isn't always loud or cruel. Sometimes it's just a 70-year-old woman with nothing but truth and time, and both on her side. 6 months had passed since Carl went to prison. Winter had settled deep into Maple Creek, the kind of cold that crept through your walls and into your bones. Most days, I kept myself busy, volunteering at church, cooking for the neighbors, pretending life was still normal. But every night, when I sat by the fire with a cup of tea, I'd stare at the framed photo of Carl and his kids, and wonder if any of us would ever really be free from what happened. Then, one morning, a letter came. It wasn't from Carl. It was from her. The handwriting was neat, sharp, controlled. Evelyn, you may think your son has paid for what he's done, but men like him don't learn in prison, they learn when they lose everything. I'm not done yet. Jody, I read it twice, my hands trembling. There was no anger in the words, that's what scared me most. It wasn't rage anymore. It was cold calculation. That day, I decided I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I drove to Jody's new place on the outskirts of town. A big white house with too many windows and not enough warmth. She opened the door, surprise flickering in her eyes. Evelyn, didn't expect you. I got your letter, I said. She tilted her head. Good. Then you know where we stand. Do I asked quietly, because I thought we were a family once. She laughed short, bitter. Family? He threw that away the moment he chose her over us. And you think destroying him will fix it? I think it'll balance the scales, she said. You can't understand, Evelyn. You've never been betrayed by someone who swore they loved you. I stepped closer. You're wrong about that. I was betrayed too by the same man. But I learned something you haven't. Her eyes narrowed. And what's that? That revenge doesn't heal you. It just keeps you bleeding. She crossed her arms. So what are you going to do? Lecture me into forgiveness? No, I said softly. I'm going to stop you from turning into the thing you hate. That night, I made a phone call to an old friend, a lawyer who'd once helped Tom with his business back in the day. I told him everything. The letter, the threats, the quiet war Jody was waging. He listened, then said, Evelyn, if she's harassing him even after the trial, that's grounds for legal action. But you'll need proof. So I began collecting it. Every email, every message, every small town whisper she started. For weeks, I gathered her poison drop by drop, quietly, patiently, the way only an old woman with nothing left to lose can. And when the time was right, I turned it all in. To the court, to her employer, to the people she thought would never know. I still remember the morning of the hearing. Maple Creek was covered in a thin sheet of frost, the kind that makes the whole town look quiet, almost holy. I wore my old gray coat, the one my husband used to say made me look stronger than a winter storm. Inside the courthouse, Jody sat across from me, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes burning with the hatred she once hid behind fake smiles. But this time, she wasn't the one in control. The law was. My lawyer stood and spoke first, calm as still water. He showed the judge every letter, every voicemail, every thread Jody had sent. He spoke of the night she drove past my house, screaming from her car windows, calling me a dead old ghost who didn't know her place. The judge listened, and when it was Jody's turn, she tried her tricks to tears, the drama, the shaky voice. But the judge cut her off. Mrs. Carl Hemsworth, the judge said sternly, harassment of an elder is a crime. Threatening an elder is a crime. You didn't just cross a line, you leaped over it. Jody's smile cracked. Carl, still in prison, sent no letter, no support, not even a glance through the courtroom video feed. For the first time, she was truly alone. The gavel fell. Jody was sentenced to 18 months of probation, mandatory counseling, a restraining order, and a fine so heavy she nearly collapsed in her chair. She was ordered to stay a full 500 feet away from me, and if she ever contacted me again, even a single word, she'd go straight to jail beside Carl. When it was over, I walked outside, and for the first time in months, I breathed, really breathed. That night, I stood on my porch with a cup of chamomile tea. Snow was drifting through the streetlights. My house felt warm. My heart felt warmer. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't scared anymore. I was free. Carl was paying for his crimes. Jody was silenced by the very justice system she thought she could dance around. And me? I had my peace, not because I fought with rage, but because I fought with truth. Justice doesn't always come fast, but when it finally arrives, it smells sweet and it tastes cold, just the way it should. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe. Support those who are finding their voice. And remember, your strength is greater than your pain.